Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. Another story waits at the threshold, and tonight, the key is in your hand. Step closer. Step inside. The valley was a hushed and hollow place, a stretch of countryside where the air seemed older than the earth beneath it. The post road ran along its spine, a single ribbon of cracked pavement winding through empty fields, sagging fences, and the ruins of barns long since abandoned. Few travelers passed this way anymore. The silence of the valley was its own kind of inhabitant. Cal was not new to work, only to silence. A city man, transferred and resigned to this forgotten route, he filled his days with the soft mechanical comfort of sorting, stacking, delivering, letters and parcels, promises and secrets, the quiet pulse of other lives. Routine was his anchor. Routine was safe. But the house at the bend was no routine stop. It sat at the valley's low point, cradled in a tangle of oaks, their limbs clawing against its walls like penitents begging entry. Pale shutters hung loose, but the roofline was sharp and proud, cutting the sky with unnatural geometry. Cal noticed it first by its breath, smoke curling thin and black from a chimney, while the rest of the valley's homes had long gone cold. And then there were the women. 3 sisters lived there, young, beautiful, strange. Their presence in this place was a question that never quite answered itself. They were polite, soft-spoken, and always waiting at the door when his truck rumbled into the drive. Each day, they accepted parcels far heavier than their appearances suggested. Crates sealed with wax, boxes that rattled with something metallic, packages marked only with symbols instead of names. They signed his log with elegant hands, never pausing, never hesitant. Cal told himself it was nothing, just work, just another house. But he found reasons to linger, to stretch out the moments on their porch. And each evening, as he left, he swore he heard them whispering behind the door, as though discussing whether he would return tomorrow. The valley grew restless with storm. Clouds gathered and thickened. On the 4th morning, a tree came down across the only road out. He could not leave. He could only drive as far as the house at the bend. When he arrived, there was no one waiting on the porch. No warm smile. No graceful hand stretched toward his clipboard. Only the door, cracked open. Only the faint echo of something moving just beyond the threshold. Cal hesitated at the porch. Rain misted against his cap, dripping in tiny rivers down the packages he clutched like a shield. The air smelled of wet bark and copper. "Hello?" he called, voice thinner than he intended. No reply. Only the long groan of the door as it inched wider on its hinges. Inside, the house breathed. He could feel it. Air that seemed too warm, too damp, as though exhaled from some hidden lung. The entryway stretched tall and narrow, its walls lined with mirrors warped by age, glass booing inward like water ready to burst. Each reflection bent his figure strangely, shortening his limbs, elongating his face, until he could hardly recognize himself. He stepped inside. The sister's presence was everywhere. A teacup, still steaming, sat abandoned on a side table. A shawl lay crumpled against the banister, smelling faintly of lavender and smoke. He could hear faint movement deeper in the house, a shuffle, a breath, the drag of something soft against the floorboards. "Delivery," he tried again, though his throat dried on the word. His eyes fell to the packages he had left earlier that week. They were no longer stacked by the hall, but opened, emptied, their contents spread along the walls in careful arrangements. Metal instruments of unclear use gleamed faintly in the dim light. A jar of something dark, viscous and alive shifted when his shadow crossed it. Crates, once sealed with wax, now revealed bones, small, pale, polished, and set into spirals across the floorboards like offerings. He told himself he would leave, turn back, step outside, and wait for the road to clear. But the storm beat harder against the roof, and with every retreating step he tried to take, the sound from within the house grew louder. Footsteps now, several pairs, circling, descending. Then they appeared. The sisters stood at the far end of the corridor, framed by a doorway lit with an amber glow. They were smiling as always, though their eyes glinted with something far sharper than welcome. Their dresses clung wetly to their skin as if they'd been walking in the storm, though he had never seen them step outside. Each carried something in their hands, a shard of mirror, a bundle of hair, a vessel still dripping from whatever it had once contained. "Cal," the eldest said, her voice gentle as a hymn. "You've finally come inside." The three sisters did not move at first. They lingered in the amber glow, their silhouettes trembling as if the light itself was alive, flickering through them like flame through gauze. Cal's breath staggered. His body knew before his mind that there was no escape. The youngest stepped forward, her bare feet leaving damp prints across the wood. The prints did not fade, but widened, spreading like veins across the floorboards, dark and pulsing. She lifted the bundle in her hand. It unraveled into strands of black hair, woven into a noose, twitching as though it hungered. "Your path here was chosen," she whispered, and her words bent the air. The storm outside groaned in answer. The second sister raised her shard of mirror. Its surface did not reflect the corridor. It showed Cal alone, kneeling, his face already slack with death. Each time he blinked, the image changed. Sometimes blood at his throat, sometimes his ribs open like pages, and always the sisters standing over him. The eldest smiled with warmth that hollowed into cruelty. She held the vessel, clear glass filled not with water, but with something thick, black and seething. Shapes pressed against the surface from within, straining like insects against a lantern. With each tilt of her hand, the shadows inside writhed faster, desperate to be freed. Cal stumbled backward. His shoulder struck one of the warped mirrors, which shuddered violently. For a moment he saw his reflection split into three, each one shackled to a sister's side, each one staring back at him with hollow, resigned eyes. The house shifted around him. The corridor elongated, doorways multiplying on either side. Stairs folded down from the ceiling, spiraling into impossible heights. Windows opened onto nothing but teeth, rows and rows of them, gnashing in the stormlight, and still the sisters advanced. The youngest cast her hair noose toward him. It slithered across the floor like a serpent. The second angled the mirror so its reflection touched his chest. His heart lurched as though something reached inside to pull it from him. The eldest lifted the vessel and whispered words in a tongue older than the stones of the valley. The glass cracked. The thing inside pressed harder. And as the sisters closed in, Cal finally realized the packages had not been deliveries at all. They had been construction. Piece by piece, he had carried the house, its weapons, its hunger, its God. And now, it wanted him. The vessel split in the eldest sister's hands, glass falling away like ice under heat. The black liquid did not spill. It climbed, writhing upward, pulling itself free in ropes of tar and bone. Faces surfaced and sank within it, mouths opening in silent screams before dissolving back into the mass. Cal's knees buckled. The mirror's reflection pinned him, showing him already kneeling, already bound, already undone. The hair noose coiled up his arm, tightening with a pulse that matched the beat of his heart. He tried to speak, to beg, but the youngest silenced him with a finger pressed to her lips. "Shh. You've done your part. You've carried everything we needed." The corridor throbbed, walls slickening as if the house itself was alive, breathing in rhythm with the thing spilling from the shattered vessel. It rose until the ceiling bowed beneath its weight, a towering figure of shifting shadows and bone, its eyes hollow lights burning in the dark. The sisters stepped back, hands clasped, their smiles wide and reverent. Together they began to hum, low, droning, a lullaby twisted into a command. The sound vibrated through Cal's skull, rattling his thoughts loose until only panic remained. The figure bent down, its eyes found him, and then it spoke, though no mouth moved. The words came from inside his head. "You brought me here. You delivered me. Now you stay." The noose snapped tight. The mirror fractured. Cal's scream drowned beneath the hum of the sisters and the thunder of the storm. When morning came, the road was clear again. The valley shone wet and clean beneath the weak sun. The post truck sat quietly at the bend, engine cold, keys still in the ignition. The house at the bend still stood, sharper, taller, its chimney coughing smoke into the pale sky. And at the window, 3 silhouettes watched the empty road, waiting for the next delivery. Listeners, there are houses we pass by without thought, doors we approach with casual trust. But sometimes the threshold does not lead into shelter. Sometimes it is a snare waiting to close. If you linger too long, if you carry what you do not understand, you may never leave. Subscribe to the Vault and never walk alone again. Listen in the dark. Watch with the lights off. And remember, some doors should never open. See you in the next story, if the road still leads you back.